As I have two sons fighting in Gaza, together with tens of thousands of other holy IDF soldiers, literally risking their lives to protect humanity, both on our southern border and from our northern border, it pains me to have to talk about this issue now. But I do so because it is important that people understand the true motivation behind the protest movement you see taking place in Israel today, in the middle of this existential war that we're a part of. The protest movement going on in the streets of Israel today is being led by the same people who led the protest movement before the war against the very necessary judicial reform. And the motivation behind these protest movements is hatred. Even worse, self-hatred. A self-hatred of our proud ancestral Jewish identity. It's literally crazy that as we are fighting an existential war on literally 7 fronts, against an Iranian Shiite and Qatari Sunni Muslim Brotherhood alliance, there are some Israelis out in the streets protesting, cheering on speakers like this.
הילד נושך את העם, אחיהם התאום של אודי וכוסי, בן אהבת המלכות. על חורבות הטירה שלו בקיסריה, אנחנו נבנה מדשאה, את הבריכה שלו אנחנו נסתום בבטון, אנחנו נמחה את זכר נתניהו.
אתה האויב האמיתי, או נסראללה האויב האמיתי? אני אומר לך אתה ושותפיך המשיחיים, אתם כל הרע במדינה שלנו.
Now I want to share with you the words of an Israeli woman who posted that video on Twitter, X. I'm shocked to the core from the horror show of the left-wing lunatics. That is not something normal for this hatred. There is no justification, no legitimacy, and nowhere in our country. And the worst thing is that not one of the leaders of the political left has stood up and condemned this murderous madness. The opposite. Opposition leader Lapid continues to incite as well. They don't stop for a second. They don't do any soul searching. It is as if they are all in a competition who will escalate the incitement even more. Who will provide their followers with the stronger dose of hatred. To see the Prime Minister of Israel watching this Satanism, it's just terrible, and even more terrible. There is not a single leftist who will stand up and say, enough! This isn't normal! It's a devil's dance! It's sick and dangerous! Nothing. None of them. And now she turns to them, the leaders of the left. Have you lost your way that much? What ungrateful and hard-necked people you are. In my opinion, you have passed the degree of hatred that existed before the destruction of the Second Temple. Shame on you. And to the security services, where are you? Why is this incitement allowed? Why can people go wild and threaten like this without being under arrest? That's the end of her rant. Now let's listen to opposition leader Yair Lapid's recent rant in the Knesset.
הדבר המדהים הוא שעדיין לא הבנת. עדיין לא קלטת. לא יישאר ממך כלום. לא יהיה מוזיאון על שמך, לא תהיה כיכר, לא תהיה מזרקת בנימין נתניהו, יהיה רק דבר אחד. 7 באוקטובר. מה אתה חושב שיקרה? אתה חושב שנשכח את החטופים?
Total hatred. Total hatred for Netanyahu. I speak to you about the decades of failures of the ideology of the political left in Israel that caused decades of military and security leaders to be neutered, unable to protect Israel, which led to the horrific massacre on October 7th and our situation today. And hundreds of thousands of Israelis are in total agreement with me on that point. Yet you won't hear any of us speak this horrific hate talk like that against them. Lapid himself is personally responsible for a horrible, appeasing deal with Hezbollah that gave away Israeli sovereign territory in the sea with very, very bad international diplomatic repercussions. But you won't hear Israelis talking with such hatred towards him as he is talking publicly about Netanyahu. This is a political camp, the left, that literally gave guns to terrorists, gave our ancestral lands away to terrorists, dismissed our concerns of how dangerous it would be. Their risks for peace led to the deaths of thousands of innocent Jews since the Oslo Accords were signed back in 1993. And they are blaming Netanyahu and this government for October 7th? No, that's just the rationalization of their hatred, because it is deeper than that. Now watch this video to give an even deeper understanding of the protest movement.
לגבי יציאת כספים, אני רואה את הפוטנציאל השבר בציבור הישראלי זה בבחירות הבאות. דווקא אני חושב המלחמה עצרה את המגמה של הוצאת כספים של ישראלים, לא מדבר על זרים. חשוב מה הישראלים עושים. הזרים, כל הכבוד, כמה היה להם פה, זה כסף קטן לעומת מה שקורה בקופות הפנסיה והגמל, זה כסף קטן. אבל, ממה שאני שומע, מחברים, מאנשים, מפה, משם, המוזיקה שאני שומע, זה שאם המרכב הממשלה הנוכחי, ויש כאלה שזה בשבילם סבבה, יש כאלה בשבילם שזה קטסטרופה, אבל אם הרכב הממשלה הנוכחי יהיה גם אחרי הבחירות הבאות, לדעתי יהיה פה שבר גדול מאוד של הוצאת כספים מסיבית של ישראלים. לא מדבר על המוסדים, מדבר על הפרטיים. יגידו רגע אחד, לעבור עוד 4 שנים כאלה עם החבר'ה האלה, אני חושב שאז תהיה נקודת שבר.
That guy is one of the financial leaders of some big financial company in Israel. And he is saying straight out that if the next elections are not to his liking, then he expects rich Israelis and the Israeli companies to be disappointed and pull their money out of Israel. And that is exactly what some Israelis and some Israeli companies threatened to do during the judicial reform protest. It is the same modus operandi, the same insanity. Are you getting the picture? The political left, which is supposed to celebrate tolerance and democracy, are time after time showing us that they are anything but. They despise democracy if it doesn't go according to them. Their hatred for Netanyahu is not about Netanyahu, but a hatred for the religious right-wing public in Israel. He's against the whole right-wing government, not just Netanyahu. And that is the whole story. I wish I didn't have to speak about this, but it is critical that people understand what is really going on when they see headlines about the anti-government protests taking place in Israel today in the middle of an existential war. They see this war as an opportunity to topple a government that they despise so much that they will even endanger all of us in the middle of a war and then threaten to remove their money from the country. If in an eventual election, it doesn't give them the results they want, then they'll punish us. A few weeks ago, I did the following video explaining to you the potential upside of Gantz's exit from the war cabinet. And I showed you the following video of protest leaders planning to create anarchy in the streets that was coordinated with Gantz leaving the government.
אנחנו החל מה-16 מגבירים הילוך. עכשיו, מה המשמעות של הגברת הילוך? המשמעות של הגברת הילוך היא לעבור מהפגנות בשבת ופה ושם איזשהם מהלכים, להפגנות רציפות, הפגנות על בסיס יומיומי, לאי ציות אזרחי על בסיס יומיומי,
מרי אזרחי זה דבר חשוב מאוד.
ולהשבתות על בסיס יומיומי. אני אומר עוד פעם, גם הפגנות, גם אי ציות אזרחי, וגם שביתות והשבתות על בסיס יומיומי. אנחנו בונים על זה שגם השלטון המקומי, וגם ההסתדרות, וגם ראשי המשק, וגם האוניברסיטאות, וגם עורכי הדין, וגם הרופאים, כל הדברים האלה, כל הגופים האלה יהיו בתוך המהלך הזה.
Again, Gantz abandoned the government and the Israeli people in the middle of a war, an existential war, again, that we're fighting against the joint Iranian Shiite and Qatari Muslim Brotherhood Sunni alliance against us to destroy Israel and kill all of us, a war we're fighting on 7 different fronts. Why in the world would Gantz leave the government in the middle of this existential war? He's an ex-head of the IDF. He knows what we're up against. Well, I explained that the Biden administration is trying its best to work with Gantz and the political left in Israel, including the protesters, to topple Netanyahu and his government in the middle of this war, since Netanyahu is the wall of China stopping the Biden administration from forcing upon us the 2-state delusion that is a death sentence for Israel. And this anarchist protest movement is all a coordinated coup with Lapid, Gantz, Ehud Barak, who I spoke about plenty of times in past Pulse of Israel programming about his leading this coup, with most probable direction and or coordination with the Obama-Biden administration. Now, despite it all, understand this. They will lose. They are already losing. That is why they are going crazy, as you see in some of those video clips. They know that the Israeli public is mostly a proudly Jewish traditional public that wants a strong Jewish state of Israel. They know that this government today represents the actual majority of Israeli society. Hence, they are going crazy and willing to literally destroy the country. Like I always tell you, these protesters, the leaders, represent a tiny, tiny segment of the Israeli population. However, they are a tiny, powerful elite with lots of money and influence in the media, the courts, the universities, and even in career government positions, including the Justice Ministry. That is why they are able to make a lot of noise and do a lot of damage internally and externally in the PR war about Israel. But they are losing. That's why they're going crazy. Hold on to your faith, everyone. We will overcome our external enemies as well as overcome our internal challenges. Am Yisrael Chai, the majority of Jews in our ancestral Jewish homeland, will overcome both the war and the internal challenges. Am Yisrael Chai. Do not get depressed by the headlines. Please listen to this analysis to better understand. And if I can use an analogy from nature, what we are witnessing today in Israel from this protest movement is like a wounded lion surrounded by hyenas. It knows it's on its last legs of survival and it's fighting to the end, but it knows it's going to lose. That is what is happening in Israel today. That's what you're seeing in the headlines. We, the majority, proudly Jewish majority of the Jewish people land of Israel, we're going to overcome it all. Stick with us. Stick with me at the Pulse of Israel to get the correct analysis to better understand what is going on in our country. If you are not yet a subscriber to the Pulse of Israel, go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe. And if you support the videos and the messages we put out there to help on the media front, to stand up for Israel, both to get the messages about externally what's going on in the media war and internally, please give a donation every once in a while. Go to pulseofisrael.com and click on the donate button. In the meantime, everyone, shalom, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.